Have you ever thrown a housewarming party, only to realize your family didn't come to celebrate, but to claim your home? If that was you, how would you react? That's the question that had my heart pounding in the dead of night in Portland, Oregon, like a sudden storm tearing through the Texas plains, shattering every shred of trust. I'm Rachel Evans, your storyteller, 30 years old, a software engineer, and tonight, December 15th, 2024, I'm standing in my newly bought 3-bedroom house, with $50 LED lights freshly installed and the faint smell of $200 fresh paint lingering, hosting a housewarming party, hoping my family would finally acknowledge my 8 years of grind. But no one could have predicted that moment would turn into a nightmare. I invited my parents, my sister Vanessa, and relatives, thinking this was my day to be embraced, but as they walked in, their eyes didn't spark with joy or awe, but with a cold, calculating judgment, as if this house wasn't mine. I smiled, welcomed them in, but Vanessa, with her 3 young kids, let them run wild, smashing my $30 thrift store vase, and when I politely asked them to take off their shoes, she sneered, "You're so stingy, sis. This house deserves a little mess." My parents stepped in, scanning the place, commenting, "This is just a starter home. Hardly fits our family standards," their words slicing like a razor, making my face burn and tears well up. I'd scrimped every penny from my coding job in Portland, shared a roommate for 8 years, skipped takeout to afford this $250,000 house, and now they saw me as unworthy? But the bombshell hit at dinner. Dad stood up, his voice like he was addressing a boardroom. "Rachel, you should hand this house over to Vanessa and the kids. They need the space more than you." I froze, my heart racing like a ticking bomb had just exploded. 8 years of grinding, passing up $500 friend trips, just for my family to show up and try to steal my home? I looked at them, Mom's evasive gaze, Vanessa's fake smile, and wondered if family even existed. I can't shake my self-taught journey at UC Berkeley, where I proved my worth, and now I have to dig into my past to understand why my family chose my housewarming to betray me like this. I had to look back at my past to understand why my family chose my housewarming to betray me, after they came not to celebrate but to claim my home in Portland, Oregon. After I saw the contempt hidden behind their cold stares, carrying the pain of 8 years of effort dismissed. My life began in Portland, where I, a 30-year-old software engineer, spent 8 years grinding to buy my first house. I shared a 500-square-foot apartment with a roommate, earning $60,000 a year, saving every penny, skipping $10 weekly takeout, passing up $500 friend trips, to scrape together $50,000 for a down payment on a $250,000 3-bedroom house in the suburbs. My family in Greenwich, Connecticut, always saw me as the background kid. My parents, successful entrepreneurs, funded my sister Vanessa's college 3 times, despite her dropping out, while I clawed my way through UC Berkeley on $5,000 annual scholarships, working library jobs at $8 an hour. They threw lavish birthday parties for Vanessa, gifted her a $30,000 car, but for me, it was just comparisons. "You're not like Vanessa. Get a real education." I recall Mom's calls, her voice dripping with reproach. "You live too frugally. Your place doesn't match our family status." While I worked 50 hours a week, climbing from part-time coder to lead engineer, socking away $200 a month. This house was my dream. I painted the walls myself for $100, installed $300 secondhand flooring, decked it out with $150 decor, believing the housewarming would finally earn their respect. But that pain, like a scar that never fades, made me question my worth, as they only saw me as a tool for their gain. I worked tirelessly, hoping one day they'd be proud, but never imagined this journey would lead me to a past of being undervalued, where I was always measured against my sister, unveiling a betrayal I couldn't foresee. How could I have known this journey would force me to confront the background kid syndrome, where my family treated me as a means, not a member? That journey forced me to confront the background kid syndrome, where my family treated me as a tool rather than a member. After I spent 8 years in Portland, Oregon, saving for a house only to be betrayed at my housewarming. After uncovering their contempt from Greenwich, Connecticut, carrying the pain of unfair comparisons. I grew up in the shadow of my sister Vanessa, my parents, successful entrepreneurs raking in $200,000 a year, threw lavish birthday parties for her with $500 cakes and gifted her a $30,000 car, while I got half-hearted praise. "Try harder, Rachel." Vanessa was bankrolled for college 3 times, Harvard, Yale, then Columbia, despite dropping out, while I scraped by on $5,000 annual scholarships at UC Berkeley, working library shifts for $8 an hour. Mom would say, her voice dripping with reproach, "Vanessa's smarter than you. Learn from her," while Dad chimed in, "You don't bring prestige to the family like Vanessa." I remember family gatherings when Vanessa flaunted $200 Paris outfits, and I wore $15 Walmart tees, prompting my parents to laugh. "You look like a broke student. Take notes from your sister." My face burned, tears welling up, each jab feeling like a small knife, as they cast me as the background kid, always in the wings, serving to prop up Vanessa's spotlight. They funded her $1,000 trips, while I saved $50 a month from part-time gigs, living minimally in a 100-square-foot Berkeley room. That pain, like a scar that never fades, made me question my worth, as they saw me only as my sister's shadow. But I didn't break. I taught myself to code, worked tirelessly, and believed one day they'd see me. Those years, like a silent trial, ignited a fire of resolve. I'd prove my value, even without their approval. How could I have known this journey would lead to my self-taught path at UC Berkeley, where I began to rise above their disdain and build my own life, only to realize my family never truly saw me? That journey led me to my self-taught path at UC Berkeley, where I began to rise above disdain and carve out my own life, after my family in Greenwich, Connecticut, constantly compared me to my sister Vanessa, after being cast as the background kid, amid their scorn, carrying a resolve to prove my worth. In 2012, at 18, I rejected my family's college funding. They wanted me to trail Vanessa to Harvard, but I chose UC Berkeley on a $5,000 annual scholarship, living in a 150-square-foot dorm with a bunk bed and a rickety desk. I taught myself to code, worked library shifts at $8 an hour, earning $200 a month, coding and studying through sleepless nights on a $300 laptop bought with savings. My family offered no support, Mom called, her voice sharp. You're living like a broke student. Be more like Vanessa, while Dad said, you don't bring prestige like your sister. I skipped $10 weekly takeout, spent $50 on programming books, and joined coding competitions to hone my skills, even when my roommates scoffed. What? You think you're some tech genius? I didn't let their sneers break me. I learned Python, Java, and built personal projects, winning second place in a campus coding contest with a $1,000 prize. Those days, like a scar that never fades, made me question my worth, as my family saw me only as Vanessa's shadow, who got a $30,000 car despite dropping out. But I pressed on. I worked 20 hours a week, saved $100 a month, and studied free online courses, believing I'd prove myself one day. I remember late nights in the library, under dim lights, coding until 2 a.m., feeling alone when my family didn't care, but that loneliness fueled my fire, pushing me forward. After 4 years, I graduated with straight A's, no need for their approval, and started my climb. How could I have known this journey would lead to my start as a part-time programmer, where I'd keep building my future, despite my family's contempt? That journey led me to my start as a part-time programmer, where I kept building my future despite my family's contempt, after teaching myself at UC Berkeley and pushing through lonely dorm days, after proving my worth without their approval, carrying a resolve to write my own story. In 2016, after graduating UC Berkeley with a $5,000 scholarship, I moved to Portland, Oregon, with a software engineering degree but no job experience. My family offered no help, Mom calling to say, figure it out, Vanessa's got a better job than you. I landed a part-time coding gig at a small company, earning $15 an hour, working 20 hours a week, pulling in $600 a month. I shared a 500-square-foot apartment with a roommate, splitting $400 rent, and stretched $200 for $5 daily meals, saving $100 a month. The work was basic, debugging code, assisting on small projects, but I learned nonstop, taking free online courses, even as my roommate mocked, "What can you do with that paycheck?" My family didn't care. My parents sent Vanessa $50 gifts monthly, while I got lectures. "You're too frugal. Be like your sister." I pressed on, picking up night shifts, boosting my pay to $20 an hour after 6 months, and saving $200 monthly to buy an $800 laptop to level up my work. Those days, like a scar that never fades, made me question my worth, as my family saw me as Vanessa's shadow, who got a $30,000 car despite dropping out. But I didn't quit. I climbed to a full-time role with a $60,000 salary by 2018, saving $500 a month, though Mom scoffed. That salary's nothing to brag about. I worked 50 hours a week, skipped $500 friend trips, and stockpiled $50,000 for a down payment on a 3-bedroom house. That joy, like a fire of determination, lit up my hope. I'd prove I didn't need them. How could I have known this journey would lead to my first house, where my dream came true, but also unveiled my family's betrayal at the housewarming? That journey led me to my first house, where my dream came true, but also unveiled my family's betrayal at the housewarming, after starting as a part-time programmer in Portland, Oregon, after scraping together every penny to climb up and overcome their contempt, carrying the hope of building my own life. In June 2024, after 8 years of grinding, I found a 3-bedroom house in Portland suburbs, 10 miles from downtown, for $250,000, a fixer-upper 1,500 square feet, with peeling walls, scuffed wood floors, and dusty 6-foot windows. But to me, it was a dream realized. I put down $50,000, Saved over 8 years at $500 a month, sharing a roommate, skipping $10 weekly takeout, passing on $500 friend trips, and took a $200,000 bank loan at 4% interest. Stepping inside, I smelled old wood and saw light pour through the windows, my heart racing like a beam slicing through the dark. 8 years of 50-hour work weeks, rising from $15 an hour to $60,000 a year, had paid off. I signed the contract, clutched the $5 keys, and stood in the 300-square-foot living room, picturing a home where I'd shed the background kid shadow cast by my Greenwich, Connecticut family. I called friends, voice trembling. I bought a house. I'm throwing a housewarming. They cheered, but my family went silent. Mom texted, "Congrats, but that place is too small, beneath our family standards." I painted the walls myself for $100, laid $300 secondhand flooring, added $150 decor, believing the housewarming would make them see my effort. But that faith wavered as I recalled their scorn. "You're no Vanessa," they'd said, and I never suspected this house would become the stage for their betrayal. I bought $50 LED lights, set up a $200 thrift store sofa, and planned to invite my family, hoping they'd see I wasn't a shadow anymore. That joy, like a fire of determination, fueled my hope. I'd prove I was worthy, even without their nod. How could I have known this journey would lead to fixing up the house myself, pouring sweat into making it a home, only to fall into a sweet trap set by my family at the housewarming, // That journey led me to pour my sweat into fixing up my house, turning it into a home, but also setting the stage for a sweet trap from my family at the housewarming, after finding my 3-bedroom house in Portland, Oregon suburbs, after signing the contract with joy and hope, carrying the resolve to build my own life. In the summer of 2024, I started renovating the 1,500-square-foot house, peeling walls, scuffed wood floors, dusty 6-foot windows, buying $100 discount paint, and brushing every square foot with a $10 roller, sweat dripping under 32 degrees Celsius heat. I replaced the flooring for $300 with secondhand wood from a flea market, cutting 2x4 planks despite blistered hands, each hammer swing a burst of pride. 8 years of saving $500 a month, skipping $10 weekly takeout, passing on $500 friend trips, now paying off. I furnished it with secondhand finds, a $200 Craigslist sofa, a $150 dining table, $50 LED lights, setting each piece with care, believing this house would free me from the background kid shadow cast by my Greenwich, Connecticut family. I worked 10 hours every weekend, using a $5 screwdriver to secure a $30 bookshelf, wiping windows with a $2 rag, feeling like a radiant light cut through the dark. I didn't need my family's approval. I was building my sanctuary. Friends pitched in, bringing $15 pizza, and we laughed together. While my family stayed distant, Mom texted, "Your place is too old, beneath our family standards." That joy, like a fire of determination, fueled my hope. I planned a housewarming, inviting my parents, Vanessa, and relatives, thinking they'd see my effort. I bought $20 flowers for the dining table, prepped $50 worth of supermarket food, and dreamed of the day my family would acknowledge me. But that faith wavered as I recalled their scorn. "You're no Vanessa," and I never suspected the housewarming would turn into a scheme. How could I have known this journey would lead to planning the housewarming, expecting recognition, only for my family to show up with entirely different intentions, // That journey led me to plan a housewarming party, expecting recognition, but my family showed up with entirely different intentions after I fixed up my 3-bedroom house in Portland, Oregon suburbs, after sweating to turn it into a home, carrying the hope that my family would see my effort. In December 2024, after finishing the 1,500-square-foot house's renovation, I decided to throw a housewarming on December 15th, believing it was my chance for my Greenwich, Connecticut family to acknowledge my 8 years of sacrifice. I planned meticulously, bought $20 flowers from a local market, prepped $50 worth of supermarket food, rented $100 tables and chairs from a nearby shop, and invited my parents, sister Vanessa, and relatives via email, my voice buzzing with excitement. Come celebrate my new home. I picture them walking in, seeing the $100 painted walls, $300 secondhand wood floors, $200 Craigslist sofa, and $50 LED lights, then smiling in approval of my grind. I cleaned the 300-square-foot living room, polished the 6-foot windows, and hung $15 family photos from a discount store, hoping they'd see I was no longer the background kid. Friends arrived early, bringing $15 pizza and cheering, "Congrats, Rachel. This place is awesome, but my family stayed silent." Mom texted, "We'll come, but your house is kinda dated." That joy, like a fire of determination, fueled my hope. I believed the housewarming would free me from their scorn when they'd said, "You're no Vanessa." I set out $10 sandwiches, $5 sodas, and played $2 Spotify tunes, imagining my parents hugging me, saying, "You did it." But unease crept in as I recalled their past cold glares. "You're too frugal," they'd mocked, and I never suspected this party would turn into a trap. Vanessa arrived early with her 3 kids, who trashed my stuff, and my parents showed up with judgmental looks, making my face burn like a small knife's jab. How could I have known this journey would lead to the housewarming itself, where Vanessa's kids wrecked things, my parents' praise dripped with sarcasm, and a shocking scheme unfolded, / That journey led me to the housewarming, where Vanessa let her kids trash my place, my parents' praise dripped with sarcasm, and a shocking scheme unfolded, after planning the party in Portland, Oregon. After expecting my family to honor my 8 years of effort, carrying a hope that shattered amid the warm atmosphere. On the afternoon of December 15th, 2024, as I finished prepping the 300 square foot living room with $20 flowers and a $100 dining setup, the door swung open. Vanessa arrived early with her 3 kids, ages 4 to 7, bringing noise and chaos. She strutted in, keeping her shoes on, letting the kids run wild. One kicked over my $30 thrift store vase, another jumped on my $200 Craigslist sofa, tearing a $10 cushion, and the third scribbled on my $100 painted walls. I said gently, "Vanessa, please take off your shoes and watch the kids," but she smirked. "You're so stingy. This house can handle a little mess. No need to fuss." My heart pounded like a small knife's jab as she plopped onto a chair, sipping $5 soda, ignoring her kids wrecking the home I'd built over 8 years, saving $500 a month, skipping $10 weekly takeout, passing on $500 friend trips. I scrambled to wipe the floor, pick up vase shards, but Vanessa just shrugged. "Deal with it, sis. My kids are free spirits." That pain, like a scar that never fades, made me question if my family cared, as she gifted a $30,000 car despite dropping out, treated my home like a playground. Friends arrived later, helping clean up, whispering, "She's out of line," but I clung to hope my parents would be different. I set out $50 worth of food, played $2 Spotify tunes, thinking this party would shift how they saw me, but Vanessa's chaos left my face burning, tears welling up. That faith started to crack as I recalled their scorn. "You're no Vanessa," and I never suspected this party would become a trap. How could I have known this journey would lead to my parents arriving with judgmental looks, unveiling a scheme I couldn't have foreseen, / That journey led me to the moment my parents arrived with judgmental looks, unveiling a scheme I couldn't have foreseen, after Vanessa's kids trashed my place at the housewarming in Portland, Oregon, after I hoped my family would honor my 8 years of effort, carrying the dread of their contempt amid the warm atmosphere. On the evening of December 15th, 2024, as I cleaned up shards of the $30 thrift store vase Vanessa's kids broke, the door opened. My parents walked in, dressed in a $300 suit and dress, their cold gazes scanning the 300 square foot living room. I forced a smile, welcomed them, hoping they'd notice the $100 painted walls, $300 secondhand wood floors, $200 Craigslist sofa, but Dad looked around, his voice flat. "This is just a starter home. Hardly up to our family's standards." Mom nodded. "You're too frugal. This place is only temporary." My heart pounded like a sharp knife stab as their so-called praise turned to sarcasm. 8 years of saving $500 a month, skipping $10 weekly takeout, passing on $500 friend trips, now deemed not good enough. I stayed calm, inviting them to the $150 dining table, serving $50 worth of food, but Dad went on. "This house is small. Vanessa and her kids need space more." Mom added, "You should think of family, not just yourself." That pain, like a scar that never fades, made me question my worth, as they saw me only as the background kid, serving Vanessa's interests. Friends whispered, "They're out of line," but I clung to hope, thinking they'd soften seeing the $50 LED lights and $20 flowers I'd set out. Yet their appraising stares, as if the house wasn't mine, left my face burning, tears welling up. I'd painted the walls, laid the floors, furnished it myself, sweating to build a home, only for them to call it a starter home, beneath notice. That faith began to crumble as I recalled their scorn. "You're no Vanessa," and I never suspected this party would turn into a trap. How could I have known this journey would lead to Dad standing up at dinner, addressing us like a shareholder meeting, proposing I hand the house over to Vanessa and her kids, / That journey led me to the moment my dad stood up at dinner, delivering a speech like a shareholder meeting, urging me to hand my house over to Vanessa and her kids, after my parents arrived with judgmental looks and called my home a starter home in Portland, Oregon, after I hoped for recognition at my housewarming, carrying the sting of betrayal amid the warm atmosphere. On the evening of December 15th, 2024, as everyone gathered around the dining table in my 300 square foot living room, the air grew stifling. Vanessa chuckled about her kids wrecking my stuff, my parents watched silently, and I clung to hope they'd see my effort. But suddenly, Dad stood, his voice booming like he was in a boardroom. "We need to talk seriously." My heart pounded like a sharp knife's jab as he continued. This house is small, but perfect for Vanessa and her kids. You should give it to your sister and move out. Mom nodded. Exactly. Vanessa needs space. You're just one person. Giving up the house helps the family. I froze, tears welling up, unable to believe they'd turn their backs in the sanctuary I'd built. Vanessa smirked. I don't need a huge place, but my kids do. And Dad added, you're a good daughter. Think of family, not just yourself. Friends nearby whispered. They're out of line, but my face burned, like the world was collapsing. I'd expected their pride, not a plot to seize my home. That pain, like a scar that never fades, made me question my worth, as they saw me only as a tool for Vanessa's gain. I stood, voice trembling. This is my house. I'm not giving it up, but Mom sobbed. You're so selfish. Family needs you. And Dad's tone hardened. If you don't agree, don't expect our acceptance. I stepped back, tears hitting the hardwood floor, feeling like a timed bomb had gone off. They hadn't come to celebrate, but to take what I'd built. That faith shattered as I recalled their scorn. You're no Vanessa, and I knew this party wasn't for honor, but a sweet trap. I bolted through the living room, catching Vanessa's triumphant grin and my parents' ongoing threats, realizing I couldn't keep giving in. My heart sank, but a fire of resolve began to blaze. I wouldn't let them define me anymore. How could I have known this journey would lead me to retreat to the bathroom, where the shock would jolt me awake, and I'd resolve not to bow to my family, backslash. That journey led me to retreat to the bathroom, where a shock woke me up, and I resolved not to bow to my family after Dad's speech, urging me to give my house to Vanessa at the Housewarming in Portland, Oregon, after facing betrayal and threats from my parents, carrying the pain of being undervalued amid a shattered atmosphere. On the evening of December 15th, 2024, as my parents sobbed and threatened, if you don't agree, don't expect our acceptance. In the living room, my face burned, tears welling up, like a sharp knife stab. I backed away from the dining table and bolted to the 6-square-foot bathroom, locking the door, leaning against the wall, my heart pounding like a timed bomb had detonated. Through the door's crack, I heard Mom whisper to Dad, she'll come around, just wait, she'll give in for family. Those words, like a thunderbolt in a clear sky, left me stunned. They saw me as a tool to serve Vanessa, who let her kids trash my place and now claimed my house. I clutched my face, tears hitting the floor, questioning my worth as they cast me as the background kid to exploit. But that shock didn't break me, it woke me. I looked in the mirror, wiped my tears, and told myself, I don't need them. This house is mine, I built it. The pain of betrayal, like a scar that never fades, made me doubt my strength, but it also ignited a fire of resolve. I wouldn't cave as they expected. I recalled their scorn. You're no Vanessa, and knew my years of effort weren't meant to be stolen. I took a deep breath, stood tall, and decided to confront them. I wouldn't let them define me anymore. I heard Vanessa's laugh outside. I'll have a new house soon, and Mom sobs. You're so selfish, but I told myself, enough, I'll protect what's mine. My heart lightened, like a radiant beam piercing the dark, knowing I could stand firm. How could I have known this journey would lead to a jolting awakening, where I'd return to the dining room with a blunt declaration, rejecting their entire scheme? That journey led me to a jolting awakening, where I returned to the dining room with a blunt declaration, rejecting their entire scheme, after retreating to the bathroom in Portland, Oregon, after overhearing Mom say, she'll come around, and facing their betrayal, carrying a resolve to rise amid the pain of their contempt. On the evening of December 15th, 2024, after standing in the 6-square-foot bathroom, wiping tears and telling myself, I don't need them, I took a deep breath, opened the door, and strode into the 300-square-foot living room, my heart pounding like a fire of determination roaring to life. My parents and Vanessa sat around the dining table, Mom sobbing, you're so selfish, family needs you, while Dad's voice hardened, if you don't give in, don't expect our acceptance, and Vanessa smirked, I'll have a new house soon. I stood among them, voice trembling but firm. No, this is my house, and I'm not giving it up. Mom gasped, you don't care about family? But I shot back, family doesn't steal each other's homes. I built this myself, without you. Dad rose. You'll regret this. Don't come crawling back when you need help. But I shook my head. That's your choice, not mine. The pain of being cast as the background kid, like a scar that never fades, made me question my strength, but it also ignited a blaze of confidence. I no longer needed their approval. Friends clapped from the corner. Way to stand up, Rachel, while Vanessa shrieked, don't you love my kids? But I replied, love means protecting, not surrendering. My heart lightened, like a radiant beam piercing the dark, knowing I'd escaped their trap. I recalled their scorn. You're no Vanessa. And this choice was my declaration that I was done being her shadow. I demanded they leave. Please go, I'm done arguing. And though Mom cried and Dad threatened, I stood firm, unshaken. That faith shattered when I realized the housewarming wasn't for celebration but for takeover, yet it opened a door to claim my worth. How could I have known this journey would lead to a direct confrontation, where I demand my family leave, defending my right to define myself? That journey led me to a direct confrontation, where I demanded my family leave, defending my right to define myself, after bluntly refusing to give up my house at the housewarming in Portland, Oregon. After a shock woke me from my family's contempt, carrying a resolve to stand tall amid the tense atmosphere. On the evening of December 15th, 2024, after declaring, "This is my house, I'm not giving it up," in the 300-square-foot living room, I stood tall, my heart pounding like a blazing fire of determination. Mom sobbed, "You're so selfish. Family needs you," while Dad's voice hardened, "Do this and don't expect to come back home." And Vanessa shrieked, "Don't you care about my kids?" I looked at them, silent tears falling, but my voice was steady. "Please leave. I'm done arguing." Mom gasped, "You don't care about family?" But I shot back, "Family doesn't steal each other's homes. I built this myself, and I'll protect it." Dad stood. "You'll regret this. Don't come begging for help." But I shook my head. "That's your choice, not mine." Vanessa clutched her face. "You're awful. My kids need a house." But I pointed to the door. "Go. This house isn't here to serve you." Friends clapped from the corner. "You deserve this, Rachel," while relatives muttered, "She's so rude." But I didn't waver. The pain of being cast as the background kid, like a scar that never fades, made me question my strength, but it also ignited a blaze of confidence. I no longer needed their approval. I opened the door, demanding they leave, and though Mom cried, Dad threatened, and Vanessa screamed, I stood firm, refusing to let them ruin the sanctuary I'd built. My heart lightened, like a radiant beam piercing the dark, knowing I defended my autonomy. I recalled their scorn. "You're no Vanessa," and knew this choice was a turning point to break free from their shadow. How could I have known this journey would lead to Dad's final threat? "Do this, and don't expect to come back home." Opening a chance to fully claim my worth before my family, that journey led me to my dad's final threat, opening a chance to fully claim my worth before my family after I demanded they leave the housewarming in Portland, Oregon. After standing firm against their contempt and betrayal from my parents and Vanessa, carrying a resolve to defend my autonomy. As the air grew stifling with Mom sobbing, "You're so selfish," and Vanessa shrieking, "Don't you care about my kids?" Dad stood, his eyes blazing. He stepped closer, voice stern. "If you do this, don't expect to come back home. You'll lose your family." My heart pounded, like a sharp knife stab, but I didn't back down, replying, "That's your choice, not mine. I built this house myself, and I'll protect it." Mom clutched her face. "Don't you care about us?" But I shook my head. "Family doesn't steal each other's homes. I don't need you to define me." Dad roared, "You'll regret this. Don't come begging for help," while Vanessa screamed, "You're awful. My kids need a house." But I pointed to the door. "Leave. I'm done listening." Friends cheered from the corner. "You did the right thing," while relatives muttered, "She's so rude." But I stood tall, silent tears falling, not from weakness, but from knowing I'd escaped their trap. The pain of being cast as the background kid, like a scar that never fades, made me question my strength, but it also ignited a blaze of confidence. I no longer needed their approval. I shut the door behind them, hearing their car drive off, and felt a radiant light pierce the darkness. I defended my sanctuary. I recalled their scorn. "You're no Vanessa," and saw Dad's threat as my chance to break free. My heart felt lighter, yet heavy with the question, how would I live after cutting them off? I stood alone in the quiet house, telling myself I didn't need to lean on them anymore. How could I have known this journey would lead to a truth revealed by Aunt Monica, the only one who supported me? Opening a door to recovery, that journey led me to a truth unveiled by Aunt Monica, the only one who supported me, opening a door to recovery, after Dad's threat, "Do this, and don't expect to come back home," at the housewarming, after facing my family's betrayal in Portland, Oregon, carrying a hope to find justice amid the pain. As the air hung heavy after the confrontation, my phone buzzed. Aunt Monica, Dad's sister, called from Greenwich, Connecticut, her voice warm. "Rachel, I'm so proud of you. I saw everything." My heart raced, like a beam of light cutting through the dark, as she revealed, "Vanessa got evicted from her rental for debts and gambling. They wanted your house to cover it up." I froze, silent tears falling, unable to believe my family schemed to seize my home to bail out Vanessa, the one always favored despite dropping out. Aunt Monica continued, "I tried to stop them, but they wouldn't listen. They only see you as a tool, not a member." Her words, like a bittersweet knife, made me see their scorn. "You're no Vanessa," was an excuse to exploit me. I asked, "Why didn't they just tell me?" And she replied, "They're too proud to admit failure, but you're not wrong to defend your home." The pain of being cast as the background kid, like a scar that never fades, made me question my worth, but it also sparked a flame of trust. I had someone truly in my corner. Aunt Monica soothed, "Stay strong. I'm here for you," and I nodded, feeling a radiant light dispel the darkness. I recalled the housewarming when my parents and Vanessa plotted, and knew this truth was the key to standing tall. My heart felt lighter, yet heavy with the question, what would I do with my family now that I knew? I told myself I didn't need them, only the support of those who truly cared. How could I have known this journey would lead me to work with a therapist, where I'd learn to love myself with clear boundaries? That journey led me to work with a therapist, where I learned to love myself with clear boundaries after Aunt Monica revealed the truth about my family's scheme in Portland, Oregon. After receiving her soul support, carrying a hope to reclaim peace amid the pain of betrayal. On December 20th, 2024, after Monica's call, I sought a therapist in Portland, meeting Lisa, a counselor with 10 years of experience, in her cozy 200-square-foot office with a comfy sofa. I recounted a housewarming, Dad's demand to give up my house, Mom's sobbing, Vanessa's shrieks, and the sting of being cast as the background kid. Lisa asked, "How did it feel to be pressured to give in?" And I replied, voice shaky, like everything was being stolen. She nodded. "Love doesn't mean unconditional sacrifice. It needs boundaries." My heart raced, like a beam of light cutting through the dark, as she explained that their scorn, "You're no Vanessa," was a tactic to control me. I cried. I always tried to please them, but they just used me. And Lisa soothed, "You're not wrong. You deserve respect." She guided me to set boundaries, no contact with my parents unless they apologized, no access for Vanessa to my home, and a focus on myself. After 3 sessions, I wrote in my journal, "I don't need their approval. I'm enough." Lisa praised, "You've come so far," and I felt a radiant light dispel the darkness. I practiced boundaries, muted Mom's texts, avoided Vanessa, and took 30-minute daily walks to unwind. Lisa urged, "Build your own life," and I started sketching my house, rediscovering joy. My heart felt lighter, yet heavy with the question, how would I live after cutting them off? I told myself I didn't need them, only those who truly cared. In one session, Lisa asked, "How do you feel after saying no?" And I answered, "Stronger than ever." How could I have known this journey would lead to a new life, where I'd grow vegetables, adopt a cat, and build my own chosen family? That journey led me to a new life, where I grew vegetables, adopted a cat, and built my own chosen family, after working with a therapist in Portland, Oregon. After learning to love myself with clear boundaries, carrying a hope to find peace amid the pain of betrayal. On January 5th, 2025, I decided to transform my 500-square-foot backyard into a small garden, buying $10 seeds from a local shop, planting tomatoes and spinach, watering them each morning under 21 degrees Celsius sunlight. I adopted a cat, Mimi, from a rescue shelter for a $20 vaccine fee, and she curled up on my sofa, bringing a warmth my old family never offered. I invited friends, those who helped clean up the housewarming mess, to my place, sharing $15 pizza and playing $5 board games, laughing in my 300-square-foot living room. My heart felt light, like a radiant beam piercing the dark, as I realized my chosen family was those who stood by me, not those who scorned me. I crafted a $30 wooden table from secondhand materials, set $5 potted plants on the windowsill, and felt this home was truly mine. No need for approval from my parents or Vanessa. The pain of being cast as the background kid, like a scar that never fades, made me question my worth, but it also ignited a fire of confidence. I didn't need them to be happy. Friends raved, "Your place is a paradise now," and I smiled, knowing I'd built a new life. I planted $8 flowers, sat in the garden with Mimi, and wrote in my journal, "I live for myself, not to please anyone." One afternoon, a friend asked, "How's it feel after cutting them off?" And I replied, "Free." My heart carried the weight of family memories, but also lifted with the future. I was no one's shadow anymore. How could I have known this journey would lead to keeping a separate bond with my nephews, where my home became a symbol of freedom, That journey led me to keep a separate bond with my nephew, where my home became a symbol of freedom after starting a new life gardening and adopting a cat in Portland, Oregon. After building a chosen family with friends, carrying the hope of protecting what's precious amid family pain. On January 10th, 2025, after cutting contact with my parents and Vanessa, I got a text from my 6-year-old nephew, Vanessa's son. "Auntie, I miss you. Mom won't let me see you." My heart raced, like a beam of light piercing the dark, as I decided to meet him at a park 2 miles from home, bypassing my family. We played on the slide, ate $3 ice cream, and he giggled, "You tell better stories than Mom." I hugged him, silent tears falling, knowing I couldn't let my family steal this love. I kept in touch via text, sending $5 books and $10 toys, steering clear of Vanessa, who sent threatening messages, Don't lure my kid. The pain of being cast as the background kid, like a scar that never fades, made me question my worth, but it also ignited a flame of love. I'd protect my nephew without needing my family's approval. My 300-square-foot home became a safe haven. I planted $8 flowers around the yard, let him draw on my $30 wooden table, and felt free from my parents' pressure. Friends said, "Your nephew's lucky to have you." And I smiled, knowing I'd created a loving space. I set clear boundaries. No meetings with Vanessa, no interference from my parents, and only private visits with my nephew. My heart felt lighter, yet heavy with family memories. I didn't need them, just genuine connections. How could I have known this journey would lead to the garden I tended, where I saw myself as a seedling blooming, finding healing within? That journey led me to the garden I tended, where I saw myself as a seedling blooming, finding healing within, after keeping a bond with my nephew in Portland, Oregon. After my home became a symbol of freedom from my family's contempt, carrying the hope that I'd found my true place. On January 15th, 2025, I stood in my 500-square-foot backyard, gazing at lush tomatoes and spinach sprouting from $10 seeds, thriving under 21 degrees Celsius sunlight. I gripped my $5 hoe, digging into the soil, and felt a radiant light pierce the dark. Each seedling rising from parched earth mirrored my rise above my family's betrayal. My cat, Mimi, curled up nearby, and I smiled, knowing the sanctuary didn't need my parents' or Vanessa's approval. The pain of being cast as the background kid, like a scar that never fades, made me question my worth, but it also ignited a fire of confidence. I bloomed by placing myself in the right soil. I watered the plants, heard birds chirping, and told myself, home is where I can be me, not a place to please others. Friends visited, praising, "This garden's as beautiful as your spirit," and I nodded, feeling unburdened. My heart carried the weight of family memories but glowed with the future. I didn't need them, just myself. How could I have known this journey would lead to a message for my audience, where I'd share that self-love is the key to healing? That journey led me to a message for my audience, where I share that self-love is the key to healing. After tending my garden in Portland, Oregon, after seeing myself as a seedling blooming, carrying the hope that you too can find your light. On January 20th, 2025, standing amid my lush garden, I want to speak to my friends in Texas. Have you ever been pushed to sacrifice to please your family? Have you felt worthless from the scorn of loved ones? If so, you're not alone. I've been there, but I learned you don't have to give up yourself to be loved. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's how you honor yourself. Hit like if you've ever stood up for you, and subscribe today to join me in exploring more inspiring stories of freedom and recovery. Drop your story in the comments. Each one is a step toward healing. I overcame contempt, defended my home, and now live true to myself. You can too. Thank you for being here. Remember, home is where you can be you, and you deserve respect, even if it makes others uncomfortable.